Claudia Webbe.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I want to thank the member for Carshalton and Willington for securing this debate, together with the Vice Chairs of the APPGs, and of course my thanks to the Backbench Business Committee for granting this debate. The significant Tamil and Sri Lankan communities of Leicester East are watching with interest this debate. Many have experienced the atrocities firsthand. They are deeply troubled by the appalling human rights abuses and worsening economic situation in Sri Lanka. It's worth repeating that Sri Lanka is experiencing its worst economic crisis in a lifetime, with food inflation running at over 90%, significant hunger with 8.7 million people inadequately fed, including millions of children, widespread and severely limited access to healthcare, with even basic drugs in desperately short supply. Sri Lanka, in fact, has defaulted on $55 billion worth of debt, declaring bankruptcy, causing this widespread misery for its citizens. It doesn't even have enough foreign exchange reserves from which to buy the essentials for its citizens. After months of delay, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has reached a staff-level agreement on an extended fund facility arrangement. But behind closed doors, no one actually knows what has been agreed. The Sri Lankan people are experiencing the deepest austerity in a country that is already on its knees, with its people starving and dying from lack of food, medicines and fuel. Protesters took to the streets to demand their voices be heard in 3 popular uprisings to end the Rajapaksa dynasty and demand a new democracy when the new president was sworn in this year, which the state has responded to brutally, despite the protests being non-violent and peaceful. Remarkably, it has brought demonstrators from different communities together, with protests spreading out rather than being focused on Colombo alone. However, there is an enormous wave of state repression taking place in Sri Lanka at present. The entrenchment of all executive power in the presidency has caused the politicisation of all arms of the state, leading to corruption, mismanagement, impunity, and the brutal denial of human rights. The new president, Ranil Wickremesinghe, launched a brutal attack on the protesters and started a new wave of repressions. Human rights organisations, including the UNHRC, have said the executive presidency, who has entrenched an exceedingly authoritarian rule, must end the use of terror laws against protesters. The Draconian Prevention of Terrorism Act was used on Tamils for over 30 years and on Muslims after the Easter Sunday suicide bomb attacks on a massive and barbaric scale. The states have begun again to use its atrocities against peaceful protesters. Despite criticism from the Sri Lankan Supreme Court, the government has also recently planned to introduce a Bureau of Rehabilitation bill that would essentially see the building of mass internment camps where protesters fighting for democracy would be sent to rot. We must never forget that there were large-scale corruption by the Rajapaksa regime, including the stealing of funds from the bilateral private credit lines the country procured. Information, as we know, has come to light that there could be $10 billion of the current foreign reserves hiding in overseas accounts, including in tax havens in UK territories such as the Cayman Islands. Along with other nations in the global south who suffer at the hands of a global economy that favours the global north, we must call on multilateral institutions to cancel debt collection at this critical time, as we did for Ukraine. The UK government must also take a stand against the current repression of mass arrests of peaceful protesters. We must push the Sri Lankan government to end the use of terror laws on its protesters, stop the cruel Rehabilitation Bureau bill from passing, and assist the country in repatriation funds that could be easily hiding in the UK and in our overseas territories. It's worth noting that Amnesty International's recent report on the crises points out the vital importance and opportunity to offer a debt amnesty to Sri Lanka and a package of international aid tied to action from the government to resolve its human rights issues, bring justice for war crimes and abuses, and implement a universal approach to social protections. Any response from the UK to the crises that does not involve cast iron commitment to take a role in these solutions is inevitably going to be inadequate, and it's vital that the government puts Amnesty International's proposed solutions at the heart of its actions. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.